So, Dennis, here's the thing, man. I mean, right now, as you were asking me a little while ago, how was my weekend? I said, pretty good weekend, where I did nothing. I achieved nothing, but I lost nothing. And right now, the way I see the world, if you have a day where you haven't lost something, I think that's a great achievement. Given that, there are countries which screwed up earlier and they're regretting. We have Hong Kong, who took it too easy, and now they're up the creek. We had Sweden. We did shows about Sweden saying, hey, they've done a fantastic job, well done. And now, in an effort to save the economy, they took a risk with COVID. The economy got screwed, and they got screwed in terms of health as well. So the thing is, right now, COVID is nowhere near under control. If any country or any leader today thinks they've got COVID under control, they're bullshitting. Given that fact, how can governments be contemplating reopening schools?
Yeah, FQ. So on their comment about the weekend, I completely agree. Sometimes I think we get our societies and cultures before COVID were so much, go forward, go forward, go forward. Achieve, 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 and everybody kind of got caught up into that whole race to nowhere. And I think these days, situations and contexts have changed, and so to be able to go, man, I had a really great weekend. Well, what did you get accomplished? Nothing. Here's what I got accomplished. I stayed safe. I didn't get anybody else sick. And, I worked on my mental health. Or, there's always things that we can do that aren't necessarily goal-oriented or achievement-focused. So I do think a big achievement right now is preparing ourselves, staying fit to fight, and preparing ourselves to continue adapting to what everybody's referring to as the new norm. And in that, I think what we need to really look at is the schools reopening. And so I'll just say, speaking from the context here in the United States, is that this has become, again, like wearing a face mask. The opening or reopening of the schools has become very, very politicized. And so there's not a lot of middle ground that I've seen on this particular topic. And President Trump has come out and said that he wishes for all schools to be, or not wishes, he's demanding all schools to reopen in the fall when they're supposed to. And if they do not, then he will take and yank federal funding. He'll pull the federal funding to these schools. And so, and now what's even being said about the schools reopening is that the CDC, so the Center for Disease Control, their recommendations, they're just loose guidelines. They're recommendations that if you want to use them, you can, and if not, you don't have to. So we're just dancing around this whole issue. The other side of this is that, well, there's no evidence that children actually get COVID. So that's what we're banking on here in the U.S. So right now we've got 3 states that are in the leading the world in COVID cases. My state being one of them. The other ones being Florida and Texas. And we're all moving forward. We're all moving forward with reopening our schools. Arizona is saying that we will not resume in-class instruction. I believe the date is now October, so it's pushed back a little bit, but we're still planning on opening up in October.
Okay, even for a joker like Donald Trump, how can he take this risk? I mean, what's going on in his mind? I mean, let's be serious about this. I mean, I'm sure he thinks something. And what does he say? What do his advisors say? Well, let's reopen schools in October and we will not kill another 500,000 people. I mean, yes, children do not necessarily fall sick severely. I'm choosing my words carefully. Children do not necessarily fall severely sick when infected with COVID. However, they do get infected with COVID and they do become carriers and they do take it back home and they do spread it around. They themselves have better resistance, so they fight it better and don't fall terribly sick. That's the only thing. It's not that they don't get infected. They don't have a built-in UV mask on their face. I mean, they do carry and they do shed the virus. They do take it home. They do take it everywhere in the bus and stuff. So my point here is, what do you think goes on in this man's head, and imagine being a fly on the wall when this conversation happens in the Oval Office.
I don't know what's coming out of the Oval Office, and I have an idea. I haven't a clue other than we're going to continue to politicize this issue, and that sort of thing. We're going to continue to politicize the issue, and now if you don't fall in line with my way of thinking, then we're going to do what we can to cut funding. The interesting thing to point out in that is that in order to cut funding, so the federal government actually accounts, here in the United States, the federal government actually only accounts for a very, very, very small percentage of funding towards public education. Most of that is done through individual states. So the states have a lot of say where that is concerned. So really, the only services that would be cut off, the only services that truly would be cut off would be towards like English as a second language, towards immigrant services, and towards, so what we're really going to do, the majority of that federal money goes towards Americans with Disabilities Act and special education programs. So over here, in case people don't know, like if your child, regardless of whatever type of medical condition they may have, whatever type of disabilities, they are still entitled to have the same exact instruction as somebody with no disabilities at all. So like I have actually, I had an aunt in my life for a long time, and what she actually did, her job in the schools, like she was a highly educated educator, and a lot of times the only goal, like for some of her students, was to teach them how to not drool by the end of the school year. These just because they were so developmentally and physically disabled, but still entitled to the same services. And I'm not going to talk about whether they should be entitled or not. What I do know, and what we all know, is that on a good day, kids, let's just talk elementary school, 8th grade and below, those kids are prone to colds, flus, every other thing, like they're just bacteria factories. 100% totally. We all know this. And so now when we have something like COVID that we don't know a lot about, I think what we're ending up doing is we're putting teachers at risk, and then we're also putting families at risk. And many of these families, they're insisting on getting their kids back in school based on the theory that, I mean, FQ, like it's gotten so crazy. Well, if we're going to reopen, it's not just reopen, but it's reopen, and you cannot take and have masks be a requirement. So there's a whole faction in the United States that is refusing to send their kids to school with a mask on because it's just way too dangerous. Way too dangerous, and psychologically, we don't want our kids to be afraid. So psychologically, they're going to be afraid if their teachers are wearing hazmat suits and masks. But so basically, teachers are supposed to show up, hug kids, and do all this other stuff, wipe noses, wipe butts, and everything else that they're required to do. That's not even in their job description. Also, parents can take and send their kids back to school and not have to sit there and babysit them through 4 hours of online instruction. It's crazy.
But bro, I'm really screwed up on this. I'm really confused here. You can take a nation to a war. You can take them to Vietnam, you can take them to Afghanistan, you can take them wherever and say, hey, we are fighting for the greater cause. Okay, fine. That's debatable, but that's, you can still sell it.
Right.
How do you sell, we just sent kids to school and we killed 500,000 people, God forbid? How will you sell that?
I don't know.
You can't sell that this was a terrorist country, so we took them on, and they were challenging the free world, so we took them on, and we took down this evil, corrupt leader, and we took down that evil, corrupt country. You can sell all that. I'm not even going to call it bullshit. I'm not going to go with the merits or dismerits of that, but it's sellable.
Sure it is.
Media can sell it. You can spin it somehow or the other. You can find WMDs which later on they were never there, and you can raid a country with that. Oh, fine. So media can spin something, but how do you spin this? How do you spin taking a nation to school and infecting hundreds of millions of children? Fine, they will probably not show symptom, But that's even more dangerous, bro, because you know what? If they don't show symptom, you'll be ever more careless with them, and they would bring it home and they would kill, God forbid, infect people who are more vulnerable. So how can anyone spin this, man? How can you sell it to the world?
Well, because what we've done is over here, the way that we're selling it is I don't know that we're trying to sell it to the world. What we're trying to do in the United States is we're selling it to certain sides. So we're calling it, the new term has been labeled a culture war. And so that's kind of what we've been engaged in here. So the United States has two very big wars going on all the time. We've got the culture war and we've got the war on drugs. So terrorism, I mean, that's just something external that I think we used as a distraction. That's my opinion. But we've had the war on drugs that was declared in 1970 with Richard Nixon, and that has just ramped up. Ronald Reagan and Nancy with their, just say no campaigns, they just ramped that up. And with that, that's when we started seeing the industrialized prison complex, right? I mean, it really started growing. We started seeing more and more private prisons here in the United States. So here in the United States, like, I just want to say, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's all this freedoms, but yet in the United States, we're one of the only countries that actually puts a price tag on inmates' heads. So an inmate, we need full prison so that those prison owners can actually make money. Well, school's not being treated any different. So let me just share my screen with you really quickly. And here's what's going on, because this is exactly the sentiment. FQ, you ask, like, well, what's the reason? Here it is, right here. It's all based on this. Not my students, no deadly COVID, zero COVID cases through the classroom. So that's the whole point of this argument, is that, well, there's no recorded cases of COVID coming from classrooms. Yeah, dumbass. That's because we shut the schools down. I mean, that's like saying, that's why we're not seeing it. So there are stories after stories after stories that you can find on the news, and it all comes down to, we don't want to do it. We don't like the new direction. We don't want a new way of doing things. We don't want a new direction. And in fact, one of the biggest arguments, and maybe we should look at this sometime, is the argument over, there's many people in the United States comparing wearing a mask to women being forced to wearing the hijab. Instead of looking at, like, how many women wear the hijab because they wish to, and that to them is a form of empowerment, and that's their choice to do that. That's their expression of freedom. So it's all become very political. I don't know that I have any answers, and I'm a little disappointed. Okay. I'll just say this, because I've asked a teacher there in Pakistan, to come on with us. So I'm hoping they'll be able to join in here in a little bit. All right.
Now here's my question, Mike. You talked about the economics of this, and Donald Trump is very money-minded. Uh-huh. So could it be? I mean, I don't understand. I understand a lot, but I don't understand this much. War drives economies. Whenever you have shit economy, take the country to war, and the war machine will drive it all itself. Right. And the economies kick on. And like you said, prisons, it's a business. Schools, yes, they are businesses. But by creating and let's not call it pandemic right now, we're talking about US only, specifically, by creating an epidemic disaster, a national disaster, where God forbid, few million people die at worst, and at best, tens of millions of people fall sick, that would also kick the economy open, wouldn't it? In terms of the amount of money that will flow in vaccines and drugs and medicines and hospitals and ventilators.
Yeah.
It's going to drive
absolutely. And I mean, it's kind of if you look at war, you're correct. And so what you look at the war on drugs, that is an internal war. And I'm just going to come out and say, like, I've never understood. I truly, and maybe I'm just not. I'm not educated enough or man of the world enough. I've never understood how the United States just gets to go into other countries and arrest what they consider to be drug lords and stuff because they're sending stuff into this country. If you look at what has happened just with the war on drugs, is we've created a prison complex. We increased the numbers of police officers, corrections officers, probation officers, sheriff's officers. We have this entire law enforcement industrialized complex. And this isn't talking about brutality or anything. It's just simply like if you look at the numbers since Ronald Reagan took over, we increased this. And we increased, the war on drugs. And why do you think in the United States, marijuana, it has been a hardcore topic in this country. It's not because people want to get stoned. Human beings have wanted to get stoned since the beginning of time, and we have evidence of this. It's just simply that now if we take and make something like marijuana legal, guess what? Now where are we going to get the people to fill these prisons? Because if we put these prisons in place, now in order for them to stay open, because they get government contracts, those beds have to be filled. So now what we're saying is we're not just taking and saying, hey, you did something wrong, but now you did something wrong and we're going to make money off of you. And now what we've done is human lives have become a commodity. This is exactly what we're doing. In my mind, it's no different than what we're doing with our students. And so we can continue to take and perpetuate this virus because kids will go there. As soon as strep throat, every year, strep throat, super common, no big deal type of, illness, but it runs rampant through classrooms. And when you have leaders, world leaders saying it's no big deal, no big deal, no big deal, it's all hoax, well, there's a certain amount of people that will buy into that. So now what we have is there going to be online instruction? Well, I don't think it's right that a 5-year-old sit there in front of the computer for this many hours. That's literally what we're debating right now, FQ. Not whether or not they're healthy, not whether or not we're putting more people at risk. And who's going to bear the brunt of this? Once again, in the United States, teachers are treated like absolute dog shit. And it is terrible.
So, suddenly yesterday this article came out that, children are now showing signs of too much screen and damage to their retinas and eyes. I'm like, wait the fuck a minute, man. I mean,
right.
Children use computers and suddenly in 4 months it's damaging their eyes. And what kind? So they're trying to build a case now.
Right.
How conveniently, media builds it up suddenly that, too much screen time. Children today have too much screen time anyways. In Sweden and a lot of Scandinavian countries, they've done away with books. Every child has a tablet.
Yes.
You know what? And books are there. They don't carry and lug books anymore. They carry these bloody devices with every possible book in there.
Yep.
So they're getting a lot of screen time. And screens don't hurt me. I've been staring at a screen.
Well, but they're not going to.
1983.
Absolutely. And the other screen that like what most of these, and I'll just tell you, I there's a few people in my life, and I know that they're hardcore complaining about they shouldn't be on the internet. They shouldn't be on the internet, but yet they take and sit their kids in front of Fox fucking News all day. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was my. I should not have said that. I'm working this week, just so everybody knows. Personal accomplishment for me at the end of the week is that I am using. I'm going to decrease my gratuitous use of the F word. It's a little personal challenge. I think we all. Obviously, I just failed.
Is April driving this change?
No, I am. I just come up with stupid challenges for myself every week.
Okay. Well,
let's
both of us try it, man. Let's both try not to do it. Let's try. Okay. So here's my point. So. Yeah. Now I see it that these countries are these leaders who have really done diddly-do for the countries and their ridiculous promises they made in electioneering. Now they're seeing this as an opportunity to actually create jobs and drive the economy and satisfy school owners even if it kills a few people. And God, I mean it's a scary thought. But I think there's credence to this thought that these leaders are actually willing to gamble on that. Sweden, like I said, we all celebrated Sweden, but they tried to save the economy, and now they're really regretting. What's happening in Florida is scary. 10,000 people a day infected, man, for 5 consecutive days.
Right.
Texas is out of control.
Yeah.
Arizona
And the
is out
governor.
of control.
Yeah, and the governors, my governor is he's taken a little bit of a step back, but Florida, DeSantis, he's ramping it up. He's ramping it up. I mean, I don't think that there is, I'm just surprised that he can even, I'm surprised that DeSantis in Florida can speak as much as he does, because he's got, Trump's testicles are on his chin. So I don't know how he can even make a statement. They are so close with each other. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Plus, Florida is Trump's state, right? I mean, he's got Mar-a-Lago there.
Yeah.
They have meetings there. That's where he and Epstein, may or may not have gotten busy with little girls. Who knows? So it just, when you talk about opening the schools, once again, this has nothing to do. And I am, my family members, many of people associated with me in my life are educators. They've been doing this for years. And to see them constantly every year get the crap kicked out of them by parents. And I just want to come out and say, it's not a teacher's responsibility to make sure the economy is running. It is not a teacher's responsibility to teach your kid how to wear a mask. It's not a teacher's responsibility to put themselves at risk so that you can have babysitting services. That's what it's become here in the United States. I don't hear any good argument for opening it up other than, the online, when we had to switch to online a few months ago, it's been a terrible failure. Well, is it a failure, or is it something that was new that we had to take and adapt and overcome? And we just haven't figured out how to be effective with it yet. So I think that we're giving up way too soon. I think that there's going to be more and more online options. I personally think it's great, because now what you can have, what you're going to end up seeing, FQ, in the United States is an education system is definitely institutionalized, and they don't want to change. We have standards. We work. We're the educators. We know what people need to be learning, and really so they don't want to lose what they have. Makes total sense to me. Parents want to get back to normal. Employers want businesses to get back, or want schools, because their workforce is decreased because parents have to stay home and take care of their kids. And I'm just going to say, I don't think it's all of it, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the parents that have pivoted with this particular topic and tried to. Hold on, maybe our teacher's able to come in after all. Let me take and check this out.
Sure.
Well, it looks like they may have posted a comment and not. I was hoping they'd come on. So anyway, they might not have time to. So if our good friend Amber is able to come on, she's a friend of the show. So if she's able to come on, she is a professional educator, and I believe she's a teacher
in
Karachi.
She teaches she teaches
the younger grades. So it'd be great if she could take a minute to come on. And Amber, if you're listening, that'd be great if you could join us for a few minutes. FQ will take and put the link up for you to join us.
Let me just do it right now.
So I think kind of, I think it's a topic that I think we've already seen rushing back in, as far as restaurants opening up, retail establishments opening back up, and now they're having to close again. And this is going to be the economic death sentence for many of these companies. So really, schools, really, I just think that we need to take and look at how we do this so that we don't, when we're upping the cases, instead of going, we don't have any cases coming out of the schools yet. I know, but we don't have cases coming out of veterinarian offices either, but we should still take caution because we're the ones that get it. So if your kid doesn't show symptoms and you get it and you die, now what happens to your kid? I just don't think we're thinking this whole thing through, because it's based on, I don't want to change, as opposed to things are different. Go ahead.
I want to take a comment here, man. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to read this, man. Education life both important, while loss of life is probable. Chances of death is tiny percentage only. Portion of loss of education is much better. Now here's proportion. Here's my question, man. If we stay out of school for a year, even 2 years, so a kid who was going to finish high school at 17. Just one generation finishes it at 19.
Right.
What the difference is it going to make in the larger picture of the world and the universe? What would it derail? Would it derail science and astronomy? And would Mars start spinning the wrong way? What difference does it bloody make?
Yeah.
If your kid doesn't graduate this year and graduates in 2 years.
Yeah, I think what we're doing, FQ, is I think we're actually teaching them the wrong message right now. Because to me, you've heard me say this many times. We put our kids, and it's all because we came from this system of the race to nowhere. And so, what happens? You know what? I mean, people with multiple in fact, I know somebody, it just was last week, somebody that's been in my life, not very long. This is somebody I've met on some of my travels. We became friends and colleagues, and he just passed. This is a guy who was literally working on his third doctorate. He's 82 years old, working on his third doctorate. He had been a university professor and all this, and guess what? He didn't finish his third doctorate before he went on to paradise.
We hear so many cases, children who've been orphaned. I mean, yeah, you want to send a child to school, and God forbid, the child brings COVID back to your home, and you die, and child becomes orphan. He's orphan. Really, what was that fifth grade bloody education worth it?
Well, and you know what? That's so funny because I say that to some of, I've said that to some of my. Well, I'll just say that they are former friends now because I apparently pissed them off, but.
Yeah.
Big shock, huh? So, but I asked them, I'm like, man, that's really cool. They're like, oh, my kid, they just did so good this year in school. I'm like, really? They're third grade, right? Yeah, third grade. And, but honor roll, principals list, super high GPA. I'm like, GPA? Like, what are you talking about? What are you trying to do? Get your child into a better fourth grade class that all their peers are going to end up in anyway? It's public education. Like, what are you trying to do here? It's here in the U.S. and I'm saying many places in the world is, our kids' grades, their accomplishments in athletics, all of our kids' accomplishments are somehow a status symbol of me. Like, I did so well. Look, my kids, I'll just tell you, I had one kid that did way better in school than me. And I have another one that did way worse in school than me. And at the end of the day, they're both of my children, and I have multiple graduate degrees. Both of my children at 26 and under are more intelligent than me. Period. End of discussion. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to continue on push, grades. Actually, and don't get sick.
More than ever before, today, and I think we did a show about this as well, your formal education and your degrees do not guarantee a successful career anymore. Nope. I think we did multiple shows about this, that your 360-degree skills, which are going to get you somewhere in life, not that piece of paper that you're going to achieve. And you know what? The best place to achieve those skills is at home, and the best time to gain that knowledge and learn things beyond your stupid books is now, because you've got the bloody time. And frankly, you know what? I was a shit student. I was a real shit student, man. You look at my grades, it's embarrassing. I have a degree. It's an embarrassment, my education. But you know what? I'm a genius. I'm a certified bloody genius, and I've done well in my life, thank God.
Sure.
Alhamdulillah, God's been very kind. I've done equally well as my siblings, who were fantastic students.
Yeah.
They've done well. I've also done well. I was a really bad student. One year I was actually promoted from one class to the other just because my older brother and sister were good students. They were like,
Understood.
you know what? Just because we were promoting this guy.
Right.
I was that bad.
Right.
What difference does it make?
But I think just kind of even onto this comment that we just looked at is education and life are both important. I don't think anybody is saying that The loss of education. Listen, Rafiki, the deal is like we're living in a day and an age where education can come from all kinds of sources. It isn't like, FQ, you and I were, we're a few years apart, but, there wasn't, like, I remember sitting in school and they said, oh, you have to do a report. And then I would actually have to go to the library on the weekend to look at encyclopedias. And now all I have to do is turn on my computer and I have, like, multiple encyclopedias, medical school documents. I mean, all kinds of, and if I want to learn anything, I can do it right from my computer. These people, the parents that are saying, what, too much screen time for my kid, are the same ones that hand a phone. They keep extra phones on hand. For what? Here, turn this on and play a game. So really, it's not about screen time. It's I want you to shut up. I don't want you to bother me. I'm giving you something to entertain yourself. And so we're going to make an issue about screen time, even though, hey, I don't want to talk to you at dinner. So go on your special little iPad or phone and play stupid games. It's contradictory.
I want to propose a topic maybe for tomorrow. Why do people have children if they're such a burden? Why do you have them? I mean, I'm sorry, but we need to question why people have children in various societies. Let's look at a few comments, man.
Tax deductions, man. Comment. You get a tax break in the U.S.
Ali's made an interesting comment in response to that guy, saying chances of death is tiniest compared to no education is ridiculous. The result is Latin just means if you said delay in education, but loss of life means a child will be deprived of everything.
Mr. Javed, thank you. Brilliant.
Asma Rishwan says, as per today's update, National Education Conference held in Islamabad, Pakistan, schools will reopen from 15th August under the supervision of government. What SOPs, man? How the hell do you tell a 7-year-old or even a bloody 14 or 15-year-old what an SOP is? How do you tell a 16-year-old? Forget the 5-year-olds. The 16-year-olds that they're not supposed to, get close to other children. It's not going to work, man.
And you've seen... You've seen, and I agree. And here's what, in my mind, what we're doing is now you've seen enough videos online, FQ, about Corona Karen here in the U.S., right? So now teachers, we're going to expect teachers to manage 30 to 35 kids in their classroom. And let's just say like 10 of those 35 kids are Karens. Right? You can't make me wear a mask. You can't make me do this. And now all we're going to do is we're going to take and make our schools a battleground. That's what we're doing because SOPs, I can't speak to Pakistan. I'm going to assume Pakistan's SOPs for reopening schools are as ambiguous and vague as the United States, which is like, well, it's recommended, but not strongly recommended, but it's recommended in a way that you can still do whatever the F you want to do. But you can't sue us because we made a recommendation. That's what's happening here in the U.S. from a basic standpoint. So, you know what? I would rather have a child that's alive. Yeah, I was just gonna say I'd rather have my child that's alive than one that was accepted into Harvard and dead. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'm crazy that way though.
Yeah.
So. It's a joke. It's got that poor mindsets. Parents are now fed up with the kid. Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to say who's been affected by this, and I'll just go out on a limb and say that Rafia, you crazy
happened to me once. I was kicked out once. Yeah. She's cool, man. She's cool.
Yes, I was kicked out of school. I got kicked out of school one time myself as well. And here in the United States, I don't know if this is common in any other part of the world, but I will say here in the United States, we did have a thing for a while that was called mooning. You familiar with mooning, FQ?
Of course.
So for those that don't know, and streaking. So I was dared to streak, and for those that don't know that might be watching, streaking is where you'd like literally take off all your clothes. I did wear shoes because I didn't want to tear up my feet.
And you run across the field? Where did you run, man?
Well, I ran across a meeting. So it was a meeting at a Catholic church. It was a long story. My friend and I, we took our clothes off. We ran. And the next thing you know, like we were called in to...
church?
We were called into the principal's office because the principal had happened to go to that church and heard of our antics. So we ended up getting kicked out of school, had to see the school board. And the problem is that I had actually taken and pissed off a school board member because there's a difference between mooning somebody and then mooning them by showing a fruit basket as well. And I'll let your imagination... you know, the fun things we do at 15 years old, right? So they took pity on me when they found out I was homeless.
Screwed up and got caught. I never challenged. I was like, "Oh, I'm such a sweet guy. No, I am. I'm so sorry. I'm so." I was always apologetic. I'm so. Let me back in so I can do it again. I never challenged them, man.
Yeah, there wasn't much for me to challenge when somebody grabbed me as I was trying to run, and they tackled me, and then they covered me with a towel. So when I was busted, dude, I had no clothes. So they, youth,
What?
Youth is wasted on the young.
So that's that, I guess. Do you see
Yes.
anything else we need to talk about, man? Or are we done?
Look, I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about is let's be smart. Let's be smart and let's stop taking and politicizing everything. Let the politicians work that stuff out between them. As far as I think it's just really, really important in this day and age. Instead of getting caught up in all the rhetoric and the hype, do what you need to take and protect you and your family. As far as education, we're gonna who. I keep hearing this in the U.S. is, our students will continue to get behind. Get behind who? Over here, it's always that we will fall behind China. China is this imaginary threat that we keep hearing over here. I don't think our threat from China is as much as Pakistan and India's threat from China. So I think that there's a lot more going on in that part of the world than in this part of the world. And a war for us with China just means that we can't buy stuff.
We
because
create
nothing's
these
over here.
We create these boogeymen just to keep us going, man. It's
Absolutely.
It's all bullshit, man. I think this whole society where it's come is bullshit. I remember a time when there were no cell phones, and you know what? Life went on just fine. If cell phones had never been invented, life would still go on, and probably much better. I remember, not having the internet, and it was all fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay. We managed all right.
And I just want to show this
So,
really quickly.
did Steve Jobs do the world, universe a great favor? Did Bill Gates do a great favor? No, they became billionaires. And they didn't do the world any progress, industrialization, development is not necessarily a good thing. It is just a thing. It is not necessarily a good thing. If you use chemistry to create medicines, you also use the same chemistry to create illness and disease.
Sure.
So, you know what? Sure, there was the bubonic plague and there was the Spanish flu. Yeah, but people got through that as well. Right. By taking the population up so high and then creating this false sense of the rat race and economy and education and success and what, we have probably created a world which is, every passing day, Dennis, I'm going to be very honest, I sit and contemplate, why is this world like this? Why do we need these large spaces? Why do we need this way of living? Why can't we have I spent a few nights at a small town in Austria, about an hour out of Vienna, and this is about 15, 20 years ago. And when I reached there, it was winter, and I checked into this little tiny hotel at about 9 p.m. It was pitch dark. I couldn't see anything. In the morning, I rolled up the blinds, and it was snowing. And all I could see out my window was this white, and I couldn't figure out what is this place. So because I had to visit a factory, so I came out, and there was one pharmacy, there was one coffee shop, there were no cars, cobbled streets, and there were horses and carriages.
Yeah.
And this is only like 20 years ago.
Right.
It was so beautiful. I fell in love with the place. And there was one tavern and one little restaurant, and it was a little place. It was a little place. It was beautiful.
Right.
Lost somewhere in space and time. Why can't we bloody live like that? Why do we need these autonomous cars and autonomous aircrafts? And why do we need that shit, man?
Well, I think it's just. I think that that's even something that we should look at sometime and explore as a topic for the show. Is I think that regardless of whatever we call the creator, I think when you look at things, I think in many ways humans believe that they're smarter, and so when we participate in some of the religious things that we do, and I know that you guys have a celebration coming up. The name of it is escaping me. Eid al-Dada or something like that. Anyway, I know I butchered that, but it's
Eid al-Adha.
So there's
the Abrahamic
Yes.
Tradition.
Yes. So where the sacrifice of Isaac, and there's Ramadan, there's Christmas, there's Thanksgiving, there's all of these different religious things, and I think that it's become that it's almost like rote for us, instead of remembering that the reason these things were created in the first place was because it was these are all back to the basics principles: loving your neighbor as yourself, fasting because it's healthy for us. I think we just end up, as humans, we think we're smarter than what we actually are. I mean, I've said this before. It's look at our food. We're the only species on the planet that creates our own food, yet stupid enough to eat it. And if we were to take and just eat the stuff that the Creator provided, I think we would really see a lot of our autoimmune, a lot of our cancers, a lot of our mental health, a lot of these things go away because we've just simply overcomplicated our lives. And truthfully, the education system has taken and contributed to this. And I just wanted to say, I think to kind of finish up, just look at this, the very first comment. So what is the solution? AQ, I don't know what the solution is. I appreciate the question. I don't know what the solution is. What I can tell you, a first part of it is stop getting so mad about everybody else and what they're doing. Protect yourself, protect your family, and go about doing what's right. And we can debate that term all day long. Do what's right, and you cannot go wrong. Politics
on that
out
note,
of it.
I'm going to show this last comment and we'll say goodnight. This is the year just to stay alive, man. Screw everything else, stay alive. And Simi Durrani has said perfectly, there are no school openings for my information, just university level, and I believe they must have enough sense and awareness. If schools are being opened, we're not sending them. Godspeed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. See ya.